Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's hard to believe, but it's been about 6 months since I purchased this 2024 R1250GS Adventure as my own personal adventure bike. And in that 6 months, I've had time to spend with the bike, do some different rides, although not nearly as much as I would like because I have other bikes that I have to ride for testing. I've done some modifications, some upgrades that really suit me, done different videos with it, and so today's going to be the wrap-up video, and I am getting ready to sadly say goodbye to this bike. And I know I can hear a lot of you saying, "I told you so," that he would never keep it and he doesn't keep his bikes, and that's true. I've realized that what I enjoy is riding a variety of bikes and changing out bikes pretty often. Now it works in my favor because it's my job to test different bikes, test the latest and greatest. So I'm actually in the process of selling all my personal motorcycles, my Touareg, which I think is already spoken for, and my 350 EXC KTM. So I can use that money to purchase long-term test bikes and rotate them out about every 6 to 12 months, whatever the latest and greatest models are. I think that's going to be a better way for me to go than pretending to myself that I'm going to keep a bike for years and years and years, because that doesn't align with my business goals, and it also doesn't align with my personality. I know that's very different for most people, but I'm just being very honest about the situation. Now, moving on. So I just published a video about comparing the 1250 Adventure to the new 1300 Adventure, which I have right now in the garage, and I've been testing that. And in that video, I kind of went through area by area and hopefully proved, or at least gave you information and factual information about how the 1300 is superior in terms of performance in almost every area, and the features and the tech and all the things like that. The only things that really kind of hold me back personally from upgrading to the 1300 Adventure, well, one is the cost. It would cost a lot of money to do that. The styling, I still much prefer the styling. And I still think the 1300 is having a few teething issues in its first year or two with some small reliability things, which doesn't seem to affect these older bikes quite as much. Okay, so the main point of this video is I want to share with you the upgrades that I've done to this bike. Now, this is kind of my second go around of doing a 1250 Adventure. I had the white one a few years ago when the channel was very early. And so I made some different choices with this based off what I've learned with the last one. And also I've owned other GSs and other adventure bikes, just not the 1250 Adventure, but this is my second one of these. So I'm going to start with it. The main difference, I think, with this bike and the build that I did was getting this tractive suspension. So the tractive suspension, I have a whole video on it. I'll link it below. It gives you all the adjustability that you want in addition to the electronic adjustments that the bike has. So you get both of those things. You can see the front shock up in here. I mean, the spring rates are the right spring rate for my weight because that's custom. The valving is way better. It really is the #1 improvement, I think, to this bike that I've done. It's also extremely expensive. So if you're flush with cash, then do this upgrade. It's phenomenal upgrade. If you really like your 1200 or 1250, highly recommend the tractive shocks, and check out that video. Another key upgrade that I have, if I get stuck out at night, these Lone Rider motorcycle lights are phenomenal. I also have a dedicated video, and I'll link all the parts below, and I'll link all these other review videos below where I have an individual review on the item. These lights are great. They are a little heavy and they're expensive, but the amount of light they put out and the daylight running features and all the configurability is second to none. And I think that they're probably the best lights available for a bike like this. Taking a look at my skid plate, so I went a different direction than most people. I actually went for the AXP plastic skid plate. You can see how heavy duty it is. The reasons I prefer plastic skid plates, and I have plastic on all my motorcycles, is they're quieter when you hit rocks. They don't reflect the engine sound as much. These thick ones are quite strong. They can conform a little better, like they don't dent as bad, like if you hit rocks and stuff. Overall, I just find these to be superior. Now, I could be wrong, and I'm sure some people are going to say that metal is better, but personally, I like these plastic ones. And check out the AXP if you're looking for a skid plate. I'm not sponsored by them. I actually bought this one with my own money. So yeah, on my foot pegs, I use Black Dog. The factory foot pegs are not bad on the GSA. They're decent, but I like something, because the bike's kind of wide, I like something with more width and a bit more traction. The Black Dog come with the installation pin, very easy. Love these pegs, highly recommend you check them out. Now, the GSA comes with the upper and lower crash bars, which is great, saves you some money. I would recommend getting the reinforcement piece that goes here. Altrider and Black Dog both make nice ones. If I was keeping this bike, I would put that on. But I also have these Machine Art Moto cylinder head covers. You notice on the new 1300s, they've given you cylinder head protection built in with the crash bar system. I think that was good. But on these older GSs, you have to do this yourself. If you don't do this kind of a protector, the crash bars don't really protect the rock from going into your cylinder and leaking out all your oil. So you need some kind of protection. So I use Machine Art Moto, not sponsored by them, but I've used them on multiple GSs and they're a phenomenal product. A couple small pieces I've got from Altrider. And I did buy these as well. The little front engine guard here, which you can see, which is nice, protects the front of the engine there. And then I've also got from Altrider the side stand foot with the extra height. I don't like I've tried the cheap ones you get on Amazon or eBay or whatever. I prefer to go with the main brand, like Altrider or something like that. For my headlight guard, you know, the headlight on the GS is like $2,000, like $2,000 to replace. So don't break it. Get a protector. This is the Lone Rider one. I took off the metal part thing. I don't really need that. I think this clear plastic is enough. So, and I also like the way it looks better. So I just running that part. That works fine. Another thing down here that is a little bit tricky to see, but here we go. Get my camera in here. This is a Yakugar adjustable steering damper. So I've got 24 clicks of adjustment, and I can adjust how much damping I want. So much better than the factory steering damper. I'm not sponsored by them either. I bought that. And for when you're heavily loaded or riding high speed on a freeway, it's good to crank up some additional damping in your steering, or off-road sand, you can adjust how much damping you want. Great upgrade, 2 thumbs up for me on that. Not terribly expensive. It was $300 or $400, I believe. And yep, if you've seen my old videos, I've got the Puig windshield spoiler. This is the large size clip-on. It cleans up the buffeting. It allows you to adjust the airflow as you want, and that's a great addition to have. On my navigation setup, so I've got a couple of options. This is the Garmin Zumo XT2 adapter from 3D Motorrad. Again, not affiliated with them either, but sometimes I like to use the XT2 for off-road stuff. And then I also have, this is the Chigi AIO6. This gives me Android Auto, so I can use that if I want to. And I can clip that right on. The nice thing about the BMW, it's all wired up already. So all you gotta do is clip, well, I have to take this Garmin thing off and then clip this on. So that's one extra step, but that's easy. So those are my 2 options there. And I still sometimes like my phone on here, so I've got a quad lock phone mount with a vibration dampener. Sorry, not dampener, damper. I get picky about that, you know. A dampener would be to make it wet. We're not making the phone wet, we're damping the vibration. Ooh, tires, I almost forgot. So I've been running these for most of this bike's life. These are Dunlop Trailmax Raid. The Raids are a great tire. They don't have the tread life of the Trailmax Mission, but what you get is much better off-road performance than the Trailmax Mission or other street-oriented tire. They hook up pretty good off-road. Deep sand, they don't work well. Deep mud, they don't work well. But beyond that, they're okay off-road. On the road, they stick surprisingly well as on the pavement. They give up almost nothing for grip. However, they are very loud. So this front tire, the whining noise, it goes up and goes into your eardrums is just horrible, and it really makes you have to wear earplugs. You should wear earplugs anyway, but just beware of the noise. They're quieter when they're new. As they start to get worn, they get noisier, but I would still give these tires a good recommendation. So for a tank bag, you know, I have a lot of different tank bags. I switch around. This one, I like the curved shape of this Giant Loop Diablo on here because I'm picky about how things fit. And you see how it fits the curvature of the tank. I like this tank bag. They make awesome stuff. Now, the straps are a little, I mean, I put the straps like under this plastic thing so my legs don't actually rub up against them when riding, because that bugs me because I'm really OCD about this stuff. And then it does have a strap up here, which is fine. And then it zips off, you know, to access the gas. I like that. But I also like the ones like the SW Motec ones that just clip on so there's no straps. but I like the contour of this. For the luggage, so I've done a whole video on the Lone Rider setup, which is very, very good. But if you push me, I'm going to say that Rock Moto backcountry are the best motorcycle panniers you can buy, period. End of story. These are the Euro mount ones. I believe I did a video on this. And they have these metal mounts that go right onto the factory pannier mounts, which is amazing. And they lock on here. Lightweight, slim, well, lightweight compared to the wedge mounting, not lightweight as a pannier because they're still heavy. They fit the bike slim. They are unbelievably well built. They'll probably outlast the bike. So yeah, check out Rock Moto if you're looking for luggage of any kind. They make amazing luggage. Their tank bags I'm not as keen on because they don't really have the contours I like. Although for the Nomax tank bag, I like how they have the hydration in it. That's super cool. But yeah, I know you're going to ask. So these are some, I call them the Amazon highway pegs. I think they're Bike Guard or Bike Master. I'll link them below. It's an Amazon product. And this is a comfortable place to mount them for my legs to rest, but I mean, this is going to get probably damaged in a crash or tip over. So you can mount them up here, find different places. If you want the best highway pegs, Altrider makes those, but they're really expensive. These are a cheap solution that work, and they're probably good enough, you know, for most people. But I like being able to kind of stretch out my legs on a longer ride. One more thing I do have that's a bit hidden right now, but I just did a video on this, are the anti-gravity batteries. I've got the 12HD in here, phenomenal, tons of power. You've got the restart feature if you need it. They even make a little remote for the restart in case you need that. So check out that video, but I love those batteries, and that saved a lot of weight, about 4 or 5 pounds, because this bike comes with a pretty big battery. So that was a nice addition as well. You know, if you've watched my channel for long enough, I have a huge soft spot and like towards these GSs. I love these bikes. I love the Boxer. I love the shaft drive. I love the tail lever. It's going to be hard not having one for a while, but again, it's my job to, you know, test other stuff. And if I'm out riding this, I'm not testing other new bikes that are coming out. And so it's a trade-off. It's a good problem to have. I'm not complaining. I have the best job in the world. And the truth is, I may sleep on this a little bit and decide to still keep this bike around if I can afford to. I'll have to look at that and just sell all my other stuff. But all the bikes I've owned recently and own now, I gotta say this is the one, if I had to choose one to keep, this would probably be it. But it is a lot of cash for me to have tied up into one motorcycle. And I have to factor that into everything. So anyway, check out my links for all the upgrades and cool stuff on here. If you have questions about this stuff, put that down below. Check out my 1300 GS and GS Adventure videos, which I've also got on the channel. I think we're about done, so I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. Ride safe. I'll see you out there.